Hello and welcome to Writer Chat on Monday, whatever the date this is, I can never remember. We're heading to the end of NaNoWriMo, and my guest tonight, my first guest tonight, is Quigs Quigley. Hi, Quigs.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. It's been a bit of a panicky week, but all right now, thank you. And how's your writing going?
Um, Not as well as I'd like. I mean, I'm not gonna win, as it were. But every word written is basically my job has just been kicking my ass. I've been working mostly 12-hour shifts most days, so I just haven't had as much time as I'd like to write. But it's actually instead of it being like I was rebelling this year. So instead of it being like a completely new, excuse me, a completely new project, is something that I've kind of been working on for the whole year, really. So I have it all plotted out and everything like that. So really, I just wanted to actually finish my first draft by the end of the year, really. So I was just using the kind of the hype around NaNoWriMo and discussion with like other writers and everything like that to try and propel myself closer to that own personal target.
Yes, and I think that that's a very valid point. It's I said this on a previous chat that there's such a lot of good social interaction around NaNoWriMo. It's sometimes a bit too much social interaction. You don't get enough writing done, but
Yeah,
no, it is a good thing, isn't it? It's good to feel that you're sort of being carried along with a group of people all doing the same thing and all struggling in the same way.
yeah, definitely. I mean, like when I was the first year I did NaNoWriMo, I actually had just moved to Toronto, Canada, for work, and so I was halfway across the world and completely alone. And so actually, NaNoWriMo was a great opportunity for me to, meet other kind of like geeky writer-esque people. And so, and over there uh, they did a couple of events. They did an all-night. There was like this kind of abandoned, not abandoned, but like like a church that could be like hired out or whatever, like as a hall. And so they hired out and did an all night writing session.
Wow.
But like and you could just go there and stay all night, and there was like a McDonald's like two meters away from the place, and like other fast food stuff. And so there was about, I was really surprised because I went along to that, and there was about 40 or 50 people there. Like and they stayed, and people just stayed all night. Some people literally did sit there and write all night, whereas other people just kind of enjoyed the social interaction and meet and greet and everything like that. But yeah, it was a really cool little experience. So for me, NaNoWriMo has always been like quite special, just because it's a great opportunity to meet other like-minded people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think any writer should restrict all of their writing to 1 month of the year, but because ultimately, if you do that, some people aren't writers, and they do just, every November take part and see what happens and have fun and everything like that, and that's great. But ultimately, for people that perhaps write all year, because I don't just write fiction, I run a website. So I write about like music and film and everything like that. So this morning I wrote 5,000 words, but I was just transcribing an interview and doing a few other bits, and that can't count towards my nano word count. I've written 5,000 words today.
More's the pity. Said more's the pity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just nanos are like a really fun experience, but I think people shouldn't get themselves. I've seen a couple of people who really do like kill themselves over like, oh God, I'm falling behind and all this kind of stuff. And I think ultimately, with NaNoWriMo, like the best thing to do is just to like play to your strengths, like make targets that you can meet. It's not meant to put pressure on you. You know, it's not there to make writing a chore or make it something that you don't enjoy doing. And so, you know, the whole point is just kind of to get everyone, at least for a month, talking about writing. The same way that, you know, Movember is like get everyone talking about growing facial hair and charity and cancer and everything like that. Like awareness, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has to do it.
No, and I think I said to a number of people this year, it's the first year. This is my 11th year of doing it, and it's the first year of actually people have been aware of being unable to do it for whatever reason, and there's been a lot of support for people who have said, you know, I've fallen behind and I don't think I'm going to, you know, and I do this win like you did. And for me, I've always thought that there was too much emphasis on winning, and when people fell behind, in previous years there's been a lot of you can do it, keep pushing through, write harder, all this sort of stuff. And sometimes, you know, people can't do it. They don't. It puts more pressure on them, and it actually makes the situation worse.
Yeah, and like, you know, one of the things that I always get kind of. So one of my biggest problems is that I'm, you know, a bit of a perfectionist in that you find yourself just constantly rewriting the same thing over and over again.
Oh.
And obviously the whole point of the first draft is you have to get it out, and then you have something to work with. But it's about finding that balance, because sometimes people in search of a word count will just, like, you know, fly out thousands of words, but ultimately it's all garbled rubbish that can't be used or anything, and that isn't an efficient use of time. You know, otherwise you might as well just write all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy over and over again, because you'll hit your word count, but it's not gonna. But if it's not actually going to add to a story at the end of the day, if it's not going to, then it is, you know, a waste of time. That doesn't necessarily mean that if what you're writing isn't like the final product, because ultimately everything evolves and grows naturally, and so we make mistakes, or you'll finish a scene, and then, or sorry, a chapter, and then maybe weeks later, you'll be in the shower and suddenly have a brainwave and go, oh, that would be a better way to do that chapter, you know. So like in my bedroom, I have a big whiteboard, and on it I literally have my story plotted out, and like characters and like motivate and who dies and where they meet and locations, and you know, and I'm always looking at it every day, and I'll just shift something and shift something. So even if that day I didn't get a chance to write a couple of thousand words, I've still thought about it and shuffled things around and kind of helped move the story along in my head, at least, which brings us closer to the end. It's one less mistake to make when I start writing on the page.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that's another side effect of this month is that people will probably, I know I do, will think more about writing, about what they're writing, and about how it's going to work and how it's going to pan out, and I'm forever, you know, it's just sort of churning over in my head, and I quite often, if I come to the end of a writing session, in the period when I'm not writing, I'll then be thinking, what am I going to write next? What's the next bit that I'm going to write? I've got it all sort of planned out, but the actual, you know, the next few hundred words, what's going to happen? What, you know, where's it going to be placed? Who's going to be in the scene? This sort of thing, and there's a lot more thinking about writing and about specific writing than other times. So yeah, I love NaNoWriMo. I'm an ardent fan.
Yeah, no, yeah, I just really do it's just really interesting to, because writers themselves can be quite. A lot of people, keep everything to themselves, and so it's like 1 month where there's an excuse to actually talk to your fellow writer, find out what makes them tick and what's going on. I love like hearing about people's stories, like and the way their mind works and various kind of things they manage to conjure from it. I think it's a really interesting and quite beneficial, like creative process in general. Like sometimes you'll come up with an idea and you discuss it through with someone, and even just that person being a sounding board can really help you develop that idea. So yeah, no, it's a really cool month.
Yeah, it is good, and I do like the actual sort of physical, social aspects of it, of meeting people. Bex, who's hopefully going to be joining us soon. I think it was 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago when I first met her. Again at an Essex meetup, and that sort of friendship goes on, year after year, and that's quite pleasant, and it's quite nice to come back in a November and see the same people again, and how you've been and all this sort of stuff. It soon flies around. We've got someone maybe joining us from Suffolk in a minute. They just sent me a message, so I've just given them a link to the Hangout. Another man. It's very, very female orientated NaNoWriMo. I don't know whether that's writing generally, but I'm often very well outnumbered at write-ins and stuff by women. Not that that's a bad thing. It's
I've been I really wanted to make it to one of the write-ins, and now I've been just slammed with work and unable to get up to. They're at Chelmsford, aren't they?
Yeah, there's here's Bex.
Hi.
Hi. We'll come to you in a second, Bex. Yeah, there at Chelmsford. There's been one at Harlow. I think there was some down in down at Leigh-on-Sea or somewhere like that. But there's been, or there was talk of them. But the main ones have been at Chelmsford, which is in the middle, but it's a blooming big county, and it's a bit of a trek. And there's a Barry as well. Crikey! Right, so we have joining us Bex, who's a long time NaNoWriMo, aren't you, Bex?
Yeah, 5 years. No, 4 out of 5 years.
Yeah, it's. Cause I was just saying, when did we meet? Was it 4 years ago or 5 years ago? It was
5 years, 2009.
Crikey, that's yeah. It's surprising. It's been all that time.
Yeah.
And we got Barry joining us, who's from Suffolk, but he's here, but he's got no video or audio yet, so I don't know what's going on there, but never mind. So how's your writing, Bex? How are you doing?
It's slow. I'm having a very busy time with my masters, so I do what I can. I'm sort of a nano rebel, I guess, because I've decided to include the workout from my notes as well as the writing this year. It's not that bad. I have to include notes, but never mind.
That's not rebellion. It's nano sinning. That is, I think. It's
That's what? Nano what?
Nano sinning, I think, including notes and stuff. Funny, Quiggs was just saying that he wrote about 5,000 words today, but for work and can't include it on his in his word count, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, I've been writing all month for my masters, and I can't include that. If I included that, I think I'd be at 50k by now. But I'm not including that. Just stuff related to my novel. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, it's it's a bit. It's hard if you. I think doing NaNoWriMo and working at the same time is always tricky. And I know I'm retired now, but I most of them were done when I was working. But I think if you're having to write for work and do Nano at the same time, I think that's probably more difficult.
Yeah, it uses up a lot of the words that you already have, so you've got none left for nano.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also just as well like when you when you work like a 12-hour shift writing stuff on a computer, the last thing you want to do when it's finished is go, so you're going to write those words? That's the last thing you want to do. So you're more like, no, get me away from the computer, turn it off, get away. I just want to turn my brain off and just sit in a chair and stare at the wall. But yeah, so what's everyone writing?
One sec, I just have to check on my dinner.
Yeah, important. Yeah, I'm writing. I'm writing a thriller, an apocalyptic thriller. I hope.
Yay, apocalypse!
Yay! No zombies though. I'm not into zombies at all. But
no, I don't like
zombies. Zombies are so last year. So that's what. Yeah, it's everything's going to pot and. Well, no, this is usually the whole planet goes to when I write my apocalyptic fiction, but this time it's just this country, so it's more localized. And what you're writing, Quigs?
What causes the apocalypse?
Financial collapse, basically.
Okay.
Which is sort of it's something I'm interested in, stroke worried about. And when I'm talking about it, people sort of glaze over and go, "Oh yeah, whatever." So I sort of figure if I write it as a piece of fiction, then I might be able to, people might sort of actually read it and understand. It's just. I love the sound of Bex's dinner.
Huh?
I love the sound of your dinner being made in the background.
I'm hungry. I just got back from uni in London.
Yeah. So, and the first thing you did is came here and then you put your dinner on. Well done.
Yeah.
Question of priorities.
Mhm.
I don't know. Just bear with me a second. I don't know if Barry can hear me or us, but if you can hear us, Barry, I think you might need to look at your video and audio settings or something, because I can see that you're in the Hangout and there you are leaning against a nice gold letterbox postbox thing, but we've got no live video, so don't know what's happening there. Technical glitches, no matter. So what are you writing about?
Me? Okay. I'm writing a kind of. Technically, it's a crime thriller, but it kind of verges less on like mystery, like whodunit, and more on psychological, traumatizing horror. And so it's a very kind of. It's set in a kind of fictional city. That is very kind of divorced from our reality. Bit of a utopia, and basically it's got a mix of people from all over the world. You have the kind of lead detective person in this city, a guy called Jack Carver. He's has this almost like propaganda kind of lifting him up as this absolute perfect hero, golden boy. But he has a lot of issues, and so basically this kind of this city is run by two mysterious men, just called the leaders, and they are people of industry. It's basically a dictatorship, and so everything runs and everything's smooth, and there's the echelons of society, the upper, middle, lower, and all this kind of stuff. But basically, a very vindictive, very, very vicious and dangerous serial killer kind of appears, and he has he's masked, so no one knows who he is. But he has a very he's very angry at Carver, but Carver doesn't know who he is, and it's just a very kind of, the whole thing is one big mind game, and this guy knows a lot of Carver's skeletons that no one knew. You know, the skeletons in his closet.
Literally.
Exactly. Yeah, literally. Actually, in some cases. So it gets very kind of dark, very gory, and it's literally about taking. It's basically actually my own personal taste is I prefer villains to heroes in general, and so Jack Carver is my let's build up this kind of golden boy Hollywood-esque perfect hero, and then just tear him apart limb from limb.
Ah.
And that's basically the entire kind of thing behind it. But yeah, no, I enjoy it. It gets pretty dark, pretty real. I personally, for me, the things that interest me most about writing are characters, rather than kind of narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So I just love getting inside people's heads, and that's what makes it enjoyable for me, and also cathartic. But yeah, so I'm a big fan of the serial killer is called the director. So the actual story is called The Director, and yeah, he just kills people and makes snuff films, and it gets real. But yeah, what about you?
It sounds dark.
Yeah, dark fiction.
There's scenes in glossy sex clubs and orphanages and everything, so it really does pan the gamut of kind of just really horrible, dark, dingy stuff.
Is it set in England?
It's set in like a fictional city, mainly because it sounds stupid, but I basically just wanted to create something that I wanted to use a city that basically had everything that I wanted it to have. So like I wanted a bridge, I wanted a warehouse district, I wanted like various things, and I was just like, oh, I'm just going to create a fictional city.
Yeah.
But actually from that, like coming up with because I take it quite seriously instead of just, oh, here's a random collection of buildings. Like, I've created the dictatorship angle and so actually by doing that, the story has a lot of meat has been added to the bones, because of this dictatorship angle and everything like that. And my original idea was that I wanted to do a trilogy, in that it was just literally three brothers, three villains that just get increasingly more and more kind of severe. But then actually now that I've come up with this dictatorship and everything, and the way the city works, actually the city is more of a character, and over time that all kind of goes from a utopia to a dystopia.
Ooh.
Basically. So yeah, but what are you writing, Bex?
Dystopia, also kind of a weird dystopia.
Everyone loves a good dystopia.
Yeah. So mine is, well, I call it a copyright dystopia. Basically, I thought of this alternative reality where a load of really stringent copyright laws were passed. Like, so going back to, well, I've taken it back as far as VHSs, but I think it should go back further than that. So basically, as soon as people came up with the technologies to copy stuff, laws were passed preventing it. So it's like the worst case scenario for every single possible copyright campaign happens, and all these ridiculous acts are passed that mean that you can't copy anything. And so it becomes like, I mean, it seems silly to use the word dystopia to describe it, but it's the closest thing that I can come up with. It's basically a society which revolves around ridiculously rigid controlling of information sharing and copying. And it's called the Copyists, which is named after this group, the rebel group that kind of rises up against it, which is based on Anonymous. But but they're not completely the same. But I took some of the motifs, like the mask. So instead of the V for Vendetta mask, they have a black eye mask, and one of the main characters is like a uni student. I guess I write what I know, and then and he's kind of oblivious to everything, and then he realizes that shit's going down, and he should probably pick a side. And then there's this other girl who's part of the copyist movement, and you know she's very forthright in what she believes about copying, but the movement starts to fall apart during the story because there's no kind of coordination, and people start doing ridiculous things, and she realizes that it doesn't really align with her beliefs anymore. And then I don't know what happens. So
Okay.
That's basically what I've got.
That's cool. Yeah, I love masks. It's saying like it's all about trying to design a good mask. It's a hard thing to do because everything's been done. So you're like, yeah, masks are really important, especially when you're making shady people, and you want to create a mask that, say, it was blown up into like a film. You want to create a mask that someone would look at it and know it was that, you know.
Some of the masks they have for the forget what the name of it is now, but there's a festival in Venice. Thank you, well done. In Venice, and the festival of the masks, and some of the masks are beautiful, and some of the masks are incredibly creepy and horrible, and you should have a Google round for masks, Venice masks or something, because some of them are very, very strange indeed.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look it up. Yeah, the mask the director wears is kind of like, it's basically, it's more like a theatre mask, except that it's missing this part here. So it's like, so you see like the right side of like his mouth and cheek, and he's really badly burned, and so all this kind of like flesh is like rotting and blackened and stuff like that, and the mask itself is quite, it's like someone took a theatre mask and then kind of took a blowtorch to it, so it's kind of has like melting features, and like it just looks kind of really, really messed up. So yeah.
No, it sounds very. And I think if you're going to have some sort of killer with the mask, it's got to be a mask that's not very nice, or you know you got the Scream masks, or you know, or some of the other ones are just, they just look horrible, don't they? It's there to create the feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you want to create something that's iconic, but also that is just very creepy. I mean, like I don't want to talk too much about like just my project or anything, but yeah, no. So I'm really kind of like keen on his look and the way he has this kind of inhuman air about him. Very, very. He just moves unnaturally and kind of like there's like a kind of horror-esque scene where he kind of is almost moving around like a spider. It's just very weird.
Wow.
But yeah, no. Yeah, no.
So it sounds like you're enjoying writing it.
I am, yeah. I mean, I'm really proud of it. Like my problem is, always has been, like I remember you saying, actually, Gerald, in the group, you saying that you have like a ton of stories, but all unfinished. And so, you know, my biggest problem is I have several stories, and while they may be finished in my head, they're not finished on paper. And so that's something that, you know, I've always struggled with as well. And so I'm really keen to actually finish this one, hopefully. I mean, we'll see what happens, but
yeah, I think there's you know, it's not a story until it's all written down and completed, and it's as a writer, the writing process is enjoyable. I love creating something different, something new. There's a story in my head that I want to get down, and I love that process. And I want to share it with people, but you can't share it until it's finished. So that's the sort of driving force for me. And having self-published some short fiction a few years ago, that's the way I'm going to go. And I promised myself that I'd publish three things this year, which. Oh, so, no sniggering in the background.
No.
So that was the idea. I'm probably not going to manage that, in all honesty, because I have something that I wrote with a collaborator, and it's with him for second edits. So I was thinking that's one thing, and then I'll just do another thing by the end of the year, and then that's 2 out of 3. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
I kind of wish that you could just pass your glasses to someone and they could see inside of your head. There you go. You're seeing my story play out as it should. Because sometimes the biggest problem is like, in my head, like I was saying to you, Gerald, I've got this board. I've gone over the director tons of times. I know I can picture it perfectly. I can picture it like a movie. And so part of me just kind of wishes that I could just transfer it to a film, and I don't have to worry about anything, and then just show everyone. But yeah, no, it's always kind of disappointing that when it's so perfectly formed in your head, and then you write it out, and you're like, it's just not quite conveying just how awesome it is in my head. You're like, but at the same time, the biggest problem with writing a story is, as a writer, you are in the characters' heads, you are in the place, you are in their lives, you know what's going to happen, what happened before, and you know the subtext of a scene and everything. But that's great and all, but then ultimately that scene also has to work on a surface level when that person's not going to know the characters, not going to know the subtext, not going to know anything. All they're going to have is that scene. And so that it's going to be impossible for someone reading it to have the same enthusiasm for your story as you do. But that's a good thing. If you wrote something...
I think that's I don't know, experience of writing fiction. I think I said there's all these quotes flying around, isn't it? But there's one quote from someone that says, "You're not a writer until you've written 1 million words," or something, and I find that it's easier now, having been writing fiction for 10, 11 years properly now. I find it's easier to put what's going on in my head down into words, and I don't know why that is. It just feels more natural, and like you, I have the film playing in my head, and I'm with the characters as they move around, and I know what they're thinking and what they want to do, and I hope that's coming out in words. I feel like it is coming out in the words, that I'm conveying what I want to convey. So I'm very happy with how this is turning out so far, what I'm writing. But it's that finishing thing. I like starting new projects.
Yeah, no, totally. It's also because when you finish something, it's done. As in, you can't necessarily go back to it because it's done. And you spent so long in this world and so long enjoying it that having to actually come out of it and not go back is it's quite a hard thought to bear. I mean, for me, I've been in the world of director now for 3 or 4 years. I've had this idea. First got it. It basically first came to me while I was at university. I studied film. It was during an avant-garde cinema lecture, and we were watching some really weird films. And I just basically, we were watching some stuff by like Stan Brakhage and Kenneth Anger and people like that, and I was just watching this film and I was like, the only a serial killer could have made this. Like it's so meticulous and so antisocial and so just bizarre. Like it's like that person is operating on a completely different plane. You know, Stan Brakhage made hundreds of films, short films, but they were all, every single one of them, and you can watch a lot of them on YouTube. They're all nonsense. But basically, he didn't film anything. He painted onto film. And so what his films are literally just like just tons of colours and shapes and they just fly at you. And it is just like an epileptic fit, really, on film. And he's got hundreds of these, and they all have really arty-farty names, like a butterfly in the meadow means the peace of life, and all stuff like that. But they're all just rubbish. But there are still people, you know, but this guy thinks he's making art, like, thinks he's making thinks he's a genius. And you look at it, and I just, for me, I just like, he kills people. Like, there's no way that someone can do that and do hundreds of these things, and that they're just very, very meticulous people, you know, that would sit there and, you know, you spend hours just painting onto this thing, and it has meaning to you, it has meaning to no one else. And so, yeah, that was kind of like where I got the idea of a very meticulous, like, killer that sets up these kind of big, lavish set pieces, as it were, and likes to spin kind of narratives out of nothing. But yeah, and, you know, I've been carrying that around now for like since university, so I'm old.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No.
It's depressing, like when I realise how long ago university was, but yeah.
No, it's interesting because the sanity insanity isn't a digital. It's very, very analog. So there's you know, between sanity here and insanity there, there's a whole range of different
Spectrums,
things in between, and the way people act and react is very different. So so how you view someone is, I always find it interesting to when I sort of think of a character or see someone or watch someone. Bex, you know you can mute your microphone, don't you?
Sorry, yeah, I did it before.
Oh, sorry, I just all strange sounds going on in the background. Good to think. Yeah, it's interesting to see, to try and work out, you know, what these people are like, and like I said, my story is all about financial collapse, and I was reading something the other day that someone said that they are recruiting sociopaths and psychopaths into banking because they don't care about other people. They only care about what they're doing and themselves. So that's sort of, I don't know, that's not this story, but it's probably going to be the next story, because I find it fascinating that someone with those character traits and those sort of personalities could be in charge of you know, billions and billions of pounds and euros and dollars, and really hold people's lives in the palm of their hands, but they don't give a monkeys about everyone else, and it's sort of, it seems to ring true that they're, I don't know, manipulating money, and it's just numbers. It's just, you know, oh dear, we've lost 2 billion today. Never mind, we'll make 6 tomorrow or something. It's it's sort of an interesting thing to explore, I think.
Yeah, well, it's not. it's not tangible. It's not like they literally have wheelbarrows full of cash that like, oh well, we've got to set these 6 on fire, but at least we've got the 20 in the back. You know, it's not kind of, but yeah, exactly, because it's just numbers on a computer, and it's not something that's particularly tangible. These people can just shift numbers around and lose and win, and it's basically like it's gambling, basically. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting, like about like sociopathic tendencies and everything like that, because you know, I've done a lot of research into kind of, you know, for my own thing, like the differences between a sociopath and a psychopath, and all this kind of stuff, and you know, it's a really interesting like, yeah, it's just a really interesting subject. I mean, I find in general the part of like why I prefer villains to good guys. For one thing, it's all about perspective. You know, that's why we have anti-heroes who are basically in any other story a villain, but because we've decided to have perspective on them, they're going to be the anti-hero. But you know, because it's like Wolverine is like one of the most popular anti-heroes, but Wolverine began life as an Incredible Hulk villain, and until he became a hero. So, you know, there's tons of stuff, but yeah, for me, like, I'm always been interested in the darkness of humanity, and so when it's creating villains and everything like that, I do really like to explore the stuff behind like trauma and instability, and kind of just really find out what makes people tick, because everyone does have their, even like good guys, everyone has their problems, their issues, and
you can see it in a lot of the crime dramas. The cops always seem to have a weakness or a dark side, or some aspect to their character. You know, Mawson is drinking, and others I can't think of at the moment, but there's always something, you know, an extra bit to their character, which is almost like the antithesis to how they're portrayed in their main role in the piece.
Sherlock Holmes and his opium.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Still yet to see Benedict Cumberbatch smoke a crack pipe. But yeah, no. So no, it's interesting. I think like, yeah, I like people that are unstable. That they're more interesting. Like the director is unstable. That makes him a more interesting character, because he can go from being this really menacing, intelligent, kind of like put together person, and then he can kind of snap and be very unstable. And very interesting as well.
Oh my word! Right. So we have somebody with feedback joining us.
You know why?
It's like a close encounter.
Oh, no, it's just, right. Oh, that might be better, because
No, I can't hear you.
you can't hear me. Okay.
Harry's calling from the mothership.
You have volume.
Yeah, we have your volume. Do you have ours?
I have yours now, no. Which you need to.
Fantastic. The technology works ish usually.
Well, I've got 2 computers, and this is my new computer, and I had you on the old one.
Okie dokie. So yes, your this is this. Our new arrival is Barry from the Suffolk Nano Group, and with B, and next along is Quigley from Essex, and then Bex, who's also from Essex.
I have been following you on listening.
Creepy. Good job we weren't talking about you then. So I can't remember what you're writing about, Barry. What's your novel?
It's a mystery story.
Okay. crime mystery.
Yes.
You're being very cagey.
It needs a rewrite. Perfect. It needs a rewrite, that's why.
Really? Well, mine doesn't. Mine's perfect first time.
Good one.
I believe you as well.
Yeah. No, it's
No,
So
it's a mystery. What happens in the first part is that someone's found dead, and they have a red line drawn around them. And basically, it's finding out who they are and everything else, and it sort of comes up from there, really.
That's very good. I'm intrigued already. A red line around them. And is it set in the sort of present day? And
It's set in a present day, yes, most definitely. And it's split between South Hertfordshire and Norfolk, because they're sent up to Wroxham to find some information. Basically, the bloke that died is a painter, but he doesn't paint boats on the Yar. He paints nudes, and this is what his sort of paintings are of. And he's basically found dead in this place where he's going to have an exhibition of his stuff in a theatre. So they're sort of in the foyer of the theatre, and as they go in to see whatever plays on. And it's called a grand reopening because it's basically been closed for many years, and they're sort of trying to open it up into the area, basically.
very good. That sounds excellent. That's very good. So yeah, we've got a sort of we're all sort of fairly sort of dark fiction orientated here tonight. It's with people dying and whatnot, which is pretty good. I can't. I've tried to write romance. I've tried to write humour. I've tried to write all sorts of stuff, and it doesn't click as well as writing about people dying, which probably says something about me. I don't know.
I get humour into mine, to be quite honest. Particularly in short pieces, because I've got about 50 short stories, so I can get into that. I get sarcasm into it a bit as well.
Like a lot of my stuff ends up. I was trying, out of all my projects, there is one non-murdery. Like there's one thing without killing that is actually a comedy. And it's kind of based on my experience working in the music industry. And so it's kind of like, I suppose it's kind of a more underground Spinal Tap, basically.
They're always arguing.
Sorry?
They're always arguing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of, there's a lot of stuff to riff on there. But yeah, I mean, even then, you end up kind of, even though it's a comedy, I end up slightly shifting towards, someone's got a drug abuse problem, and there's other stuff going on that's, and it's like, no, keep it funny, keep it light. But it's just me and the music I spend a lot of time listening to and working in and everything like that. It's there's good moments, but there's a lot of darkness in this world, and I think sometimes it's good to write about it. It's cathartic. It's my favourite word, catharsis.
I like it. Sounds good.
It's a lot of typing for one word, though. You haven't quite got the sort of nano spirit. I think you have lots of little short words so you can type them faster.
Oh, do you write in single syllables only then?
You've read my writing, haven't you? I only use words that I understand, so there's not that many of them. It's the same words over and over again.
I can use and, the, and names. Let's do it.
And cathartic.
Yeah.
Cup of tea, lovely. So Barry, how many words have you written?
52,512.
Woohoo! Yes.
Congrats.
We have a quotes winner.
Yeah, I've printed it off actually. Yes, I printed it off. Here it is.
Oh, if you validated it and got your certificate and everything. Say something so we can see this.
Winner!
Wow. Very good.
I haven't laminated and stuck it on the wall yet, but
It's funny. I was looking for. I've written in a writing. I met someone and I sounded bad, didn't I? I met someone. Someone who went to a writing. They said, "Oh, I'm writing a ghost story about a house and stuff like that." And I said, "Oh, I wrote one of those." And I thought I haven't seen that for a while, and I can't find it. I've searched high and low on various hard disks, and it's gone, which is a bit of a concern.
what I do now, and I've done for the last couple of years, because I've lost stories like that, is I email them to myself, so I don't lose them. So I get put them in an email file, and I also print a hard copy. So I have my file here, which has got all the stories in a hard copy as well.
Okay, wow.
So I keep that. So if I can't find anything on there, I'll find it in there. So worst case scenario, I have to retype it.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I lost stuff like that and everything else. But I have when people have scrapbooks and stuff that they write in, I don't. I have a box at the moment. I've got scrapbooks to put it in, but I've just got a box. So if I have something in notes or things like that, I write it down. Same as when I watch some of your other podcasts, I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I've ordered some of the books. I think this was one of the books. Was it Into the Woods?
Oh yes. That's about screenwriting, isn't it?
Yeah. So I haven't read it yet, but after watching one of yours, I ordered that, and it came within a couple of days. So that was good, and it cost me, I think it was something like £1.26 plus B&P.
Well, I mean, I should have affiliate links, shouldn't I? Because I'd make a fortune. Yeah.
I'll let you borrow it after me. Oh, it says PC at risk. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, that's right. I was looking through various external hard disks for this, and it doesn't help that I don't know what it's called, and it's not in my works in progress spreadsheet. So I really don't know what I've done with it. But I came across some old NaNoWriMo winners badges. Going back years, it's quite cute, and certificates as well. I quite like that. I've kept them all. Right. I know it's cute. I should hang them up on the wall behind me now. I've got my writing studio.
Mm.
I wrote a ghost story about from a place in Ipswich. Actually, last year it was. Well, you know, Ipswich used to have a race course. Did you know that?
Horse racing.
Yeah, horse racing.
Okay.
Over by Nacton Road, and there's a park there. I'm trying to think what it's called. Murray Park, I think it's called. It was in Murray Road, and that used to be part of the course. So, because I was over near there last year, what happened is I just saw this plaque, and I thought, what's that? And I read it, and I didn't know it used to be a race course. And the Tesco's down the road used to be the racecourse pub and everything else. So I researched it, and from that, I wrote a story about people moving from one area into the road, in Murray Road, opposite the racecourse. And as they walked through the park at night, the day after they moved in, they were walking back, and that's where they could hear horses running through the field. And they turned around, and they had ghost horses running through them. So I wrote a ghost story about that. So that was interesting to write, and most of the stuff I've been written up to now is really only 1,000 words because of my writings I've got to go to. But NaNoWriMo has really got me into sort of the mood of writing a lot more detail and a lot more information and a lot more strands in different directions, and then like a proper book, they all sort of come together in the end.
Yeah, it's good. So, Bex, I mean, you've been writing for a long time, haven't you?
Yep, pretty much my whole life.
No. So how many words do you reckon you've written? Millions.
What, in my whole life?
It's a random question, but they might.
I don't know. Millions, probably. I have a lot of unfinished projects.
It's a curse, isn't it? Finished projects. And now I've got this spreadsheet with them all listed in. Whenever I sort of update this spreadsheet. Whenever I update the spreadsheet, I just look at these things and I feel really bad that I've put all this work into these things and they're just sitting there waiting for me to finish them and edit them and do something with them.
I should have one of those spreadsheets.
Oh. Yeah, you don't lose stories then, do you? Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm sure it's probably sitting around somewhere under. It's not called Suffolk Ghost Story. It's probably called NaNoWriMo 2007 or something, or some other ridiculous challenge. But I've tried searching hard disks for keywords and.
Perhaps you dreamt you wrote it in your sleep.
Or perhaps it was another me that wrote them.
Oh yeah.
The famous one that's abroad on holiday.
Oh, the famous one that can write properly and finish things. Yeah, parallel universes. That's a funny thing as well. That's parallel universes. I mean, the thought. I like the idea of that. You've ever watched the film Sliding Doors, where one small thing changes the whole life of a character.
I love that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's good to sort of kick somebody just a little bit sideways and see where they go and race down this strange dark road to God knows where. And what would have happened to them if it kept on that road? It is strange and fascinating. Oh, that's good. So Barry's finished. I'm 45.5K, I think. So almost certainly going to finish. Bex, Bex and Quiggs, you're sort of behind-ish and probably not going to finish, but you don't really care.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, not to put a dampener on the people that have, that have won. That's brilliant. But yeah, no, I've just been. I mean, I've actually got. I'm starting work. My other job in an hour and a half. I work nights, so I'll be working until 6 in the morning. So yeah, I really want to write, and I write when I can. But yeah, I'm not kind of killing myself over not hitting the target. Like I said, it's just a really great opportunity to, meet a bunch of other writers and see what everyone's got going on. So it's inspiring because writing is a lonely experience. It's and so it can be inspiring and quite comforting to talk to other like-minded people because they understand that. So yeah, no, NaNoWriMo this year it's been a good year. I haven't hit the target, but it's been a good year in terms of, we got the group and I've met a bunch of people and yeah, it's fun.
I think that's a good point you make there. I mean, I've never done it before. And I think that's probably what drove me to do the word count, because of the encouragement, not only from others on Facebook page, but at the coffee meets that we've had up in Ipswich, plus the other stuff that's been going on online on the NaNoWriMo website as well. So that's probably pushed me more than I would have pushed myself if I'd have decided to do it without any, if you like, outside pressures. But next year, I probably won't do it because I've asked to do an access course, so I'll have to wait for that to get on that to sort of then hope if I pass that, I can then get on to do a writing degree. Which I've done short courses before, I feel like over the last 25 years plus, but I find the short courses are okay when they're going on, and then it sort of doesn't lead to anything, which leads me to believe, well, what was the point in doing it? I learned certain things, but I want it to progress a lot more.
Right. Yeah, it's good. I noticed that you were you're doing that, and the ML of Suffolk, she's signing up to do an MA in creative writing, isn't she?
Very common.
Yeah, she's. I think she's going up to Norfolk to do that now. I hope to do my access course in West Suffolk, hopefully, and Colchester, your end of the woods, has got. I think the course that I want to go on to. Just for the next year, but actually hopefully the year after. But, before I get old and decrepit, I can't see anything.
I don't blame you. I started a course yonks ago, creative writing course, but you had to do research and read magazines and analyse articles and magazines and stuff, and I thought, I don't want to do this. I want to write stories. So yeah, that was my only sort of venture into proper study of writing. But Bex is going to be a journalist, aren't you, Bex?
Yep, I'm already doing it.
Oh, are you actually being a journalist, or not just studying?
Yeah, well, I write for a magazine online, which is called Paper Droids, and I mean, we're told with our course to consider ourselves to be freelance journalists. We have these newspapers that we run as part of the course, Hackney Post and Islington Now. So we cover local stories in the boroughs of Hackney and Islington in London. So I mean, that's, you know, we have proper sub-editing, and on Paper Droids I'm sub-edited as well. So I consider that, you know, being a journalist. I don't get paid for it, but that's not, you know, what it's all about. So yeah, and I have a pretty decent portfolio now. Well, I'm improving it, but I've got a few things written.
So when you finish your course, will you want to do journalism full time? I said, when you finished your course, will you want to do journalism full time?
Yep, that's the idea.
One thing I heard about journalism is don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Say that again?
One thing I heard about journalism is don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Ha ha. Well, I'm probably a controversial journalist that wants to tell the truth about stuff. We'll see how that works out for me.
Well, hopefully, I'm joking aside, hopefully it does. I think I would love to have done that if I was 20 years younger. Now, no, I just want to make stuff up and sell books.
Yeah.
Whether I'll achieve that, I don't know, but I'm serious about trying to do it, and hopefully I can push my brain into the places it doesn't really want to go. You know, doing courses, and there's always stuff on courses you're thinking, why do they have to put this on this course? Why don't they put it on someone else's course? You know, no one wants to do that, but I suppose it means that you can learn to that point, or have the ability to learn up to that point, even if you're not going to use it. I mean, how many times have you used algebra in your life?
Lots.
The exception to the rule.
Yeah, I know, I'm the exception. Sorry. No, I think with the number of sort of the blurring of the lines between online and offline publications, and different sorts of news outlets that are apps and downloadable articles, I think there's more scope for the journalists that will tell the truth rather than someone having to totally keep their job.
I hope so. Yeah.
We're on the
move. Just watching you move around.
I had to grab my charger. I didn't want to leave you guys again, so my laptop battery is pathetic.
I was getting travel sickness there.
Sorry about that. I should have left you where you were.
That's all right. It's quite all right.
You can see what I do in my part-time, in my spare time.
Throw darts. Well, it's a hobby.
I don't want to turn the light up too much, it was showing off the top of my head.
Do you ever put pieces of paper with your writing on and throw darts at it?
No.
That sounds like fun, actually.
Yeah, I know. Damn you, stupid words, ridiculous character, and your never-ending plot.
Problem is, I wouldn't hit it, so it would kind of be an exercise in futility.
Yeah, and I never print anything. I'm seriously thinking about investing in a laser printer, because I recognise that when I do actually get around to editing some stuff, editing on paper is very different to editing on the screen, and I think I will prefer to do sort of second, third edits on paper rather than on the screen. Quiggs, you write a lot. How do you edit?
Badly. No, I'm really terrible at self-editing. So, for example, for the site that I run, I co-run it with someone. So, in general, when I write something, I usually get him to edit it before it goes up, because the biggest problem I feel like with self-editing is you can, especially when you've written like a kind of like, you know, when you've written like an article about like a film or an album or whatever, a lot of the time when you're reading it back to yourself, you read back what you thought you wrote rather than actually what you wrote. So
that's a fair point, yeah.
So you'll still skim over the errors that you made accidentally. So yeah, you know, if you can print it off and write, you know, and go through it with like pen and paper, that's probably good. When it comes to my fiction, I actually have it on Google Drive, and I have a couple of friends who I get to actually go through and put red ink through it and add comments and like even just stuff like you know, add a comment like what's the purpose, you know, asking questions and basically making sure, nitpicking, making sure I'm covering all the bases, making sure that, now, is that in there for a purpose? Is that just kind of spinning your wheels? Is that a mistake? Whatever it may be. But yeah, no, I find it very difficult to self-edit purely because I just find myself reading what I think I wrote rather than what I wrote. So yeah, but no, when it comes to like, you know, because I actually, you were saying about journalism, you know, I am technically a journalist. I don't get paid for it. It's my side thing, and yeah. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, I find it, I can write pretty quickly. That's the other thing. Like on busy days when there's a lot of news, I used to be able to like crank out lots and lots of posts and stuff. So I get pretty good at kind of writing first time what I meant to write, but you know, everyone makes mistakes, and so yeah, that's why I have a co-editor who catches them for me, and I catch his, so you know, we make a good team.
Yeah, it's good. I think you have to have someone as your editor who understands, especially well with fiction, who understands the genre, who understands your writing and what you're trying to say. Because sometimes you're putting things in for a purpose, even though it doesn't seem like it at the time. So, and it's very fine to very hard to find an editor that sort of understands you and understands the style of your writing and the voice and won't try to change it. When I was talking to Darren Wearmouth the other week, and he said his stuff's gone off to an editor. He's being published by one of the Amazon imprints now, and so he sent stuff off to his editor, and at the very last round of copy edits, almost like proofreading, a whole load of things got changed, and he said to the senior editor, look, I don't want them changed. This is just supposed to be a final quick read through before publishing, and all these changes came back, and he, it's, you wonder what that person is doing, whether they understand editing, whether they understand story, whether they understand writing, or whether they're just turning up at 9 o'clock and going through, oh, this is a better word than that, and I'll change that. And it's very hard, isn't it? Because it's precious stuff. You've put hours and hours of work into this writing, and you want someone to treat it well. Cut stuff out if it's not necessary or if it doesn't do a job. But they don't. You have to. They can't change what you want to write. That's what I'm trying to say, I think.
There's one thing that's always really stuck in my mind. There's a screenwriting duo called Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott. They've done a lot of work for Disney and that. They're quite successful. Their motto, they run a website about kind of screenwriting and writing in general. And literally their motto, and it's emblazoned on the top of the website, they say, the day you sell your script is the day your dream dies. And the whole thing is just literally, once you've sold what you've written, it's dead. Because these people will tear it apart and change it and do all these and you can't do anything about it. So you've got to, you can't be precious about it. And it's especially, I studied film and I started off writing screenplays, and then kind of when I was younger I was writing fiction and prose and everything like that, and then I got older and went down the road of screenplays, and now I'm kind of starting to go back towards novels again. But yeah, so from especially from a screenwriter perspective, the producer or whatever else, when they buy it, when they buy the script, they can make a lot of changes, and sometimes you'll see people reviewing stories or whatever, and they'll say, oh, well, it would be better if you went down this route, and what they've come up with is obviously something that's really generic that they've seen a ton of times, and so yeah, those kind of changes can happen, and it sucks as a writer, but ultimately these are the people that are also buying your story, and so you can't just say to them, get out, you're wrong. So yeah, no, it's I mean, you mentioned earlier, Gerald, about writing with a collaborator. I've never done that. I've always kind of wanted to, because I think it'd be an interesting dynamic. But at the same time, I'm far too precious, about because the problem with a collaborator is you've got to find someone that you really click with, as someone that, or even say for example, one person's strength is characters, one person's strength is plot. Find someone that you can complement each other. You don't want to get two people together in a room who are both really good at characters and crap at everything else, because they'll just argue about people's motivations and never get anywhere.
Bex, you sort of waved your hand at writing because you've written with a collaborator. How did yours work? Did you take different bits of the story, or did you write simultaneously, or what?
Well, I haven't. I should say I haven't collaborated on a novel per se. I've collaborated on just about everything else. I have a close internet friend who I've collaborated on a bunch of different creative projects with, a visual novel, comics, and we also and she has critiqued my writing, but we haven't written prose together. But actually, when you mentioned the Google Docs editing, I can't remember, was it Quiggs who mentioned that?
Yep.
And that's what we did as well. So once we put together a submission, an application to join a a comics anthology that someone we knew was putting together. So it was an anthology of short comic stories, and we wanted to apply as a writer and artist duo. So I'm normally the writer, but she does write as well. So that's why, and we work pretty well together because she does the visuals, I do the writing, but she's also really good at tearing things apart, and I'm good at picking holes in the stuff that she comes up with. So we kind of work together. But yeah, we did. So I wrote this writing sample to submit for the anthology, and then we opened it up in a Google Doc, and I could see her live editing it, and we would argue over what she was editing, like at the same time, and it just became this war of. It turned into this horrendous thing where she just started changing my writing to ridiculous stuff just to annoy me, and then I started changing it back. But, and we used a section from my Nano 2009 novels, and I have this one section of my novel which is really good because we really tore it apart, and the rest is just terrible. But it was really fun doing the Google Drive thing. Unfortunately, we didn't get accepted to the anthology, but I consider myself extremely lucky to have found someone who, we complement each other because she's artsy and I'm wordy, and then we're both good at telling each other, no, that's crap, do this. And we had these long, protracted arguments over Skype about plot holes, and then we lose track of what we were actually arguing about. It's fun. So I really like it. And we did Script Frenzy together, actually. That was one of my my successes. I won one NaNoWriMo and one Script Frenzy, and I did that with her, so that was good.
Yeah, it's funny when I try not to be precious about my writing. I'm not precious about it when it's going out for editing, and I'm quite happy for someone that I trust and that I know understands the writing. I'm quite happy for them to say, no, this doesn't make sense. You need to sharpen this up or whatever. But when I met this guy on a Google Hangout, like you do, but we started talking. He said, "Oh, I got this idea for a horror novel, and do you want to hear it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm game." And so our collaboration, our to and fro collaboration, went up to the first draft point. So we batted ideas backwards and forwards. We shared on a Google Drive. We shared a Scrivener file with the characters and locations and stuff, and we then email and say, updated Scrivener file, and away to go. But when it got to the time when we had the story pretty much laid out, pretty much planned, I said, I'll take the first draft, because I wanted to get the first draft sort of, it's a bit like too many nanos. I want to start at the beginning and work to the end with one writer. So I've done that, and I've done the first sort of copy of its proofreading. It's now gone off to him for sort of consideration for editing, for sort of suggestions for rewrites, basically. Because I don't think I could personally work on the document with someone at the same time. I don't know. I've not tried it. I've tried collaborative writing with taking different characters and writing simultaneously, and then that's just, I felt that was just a disaster, because your character gets sidetracked by what someone else is writing, and you think, no, I didn't want them to do that. They're going this way, and they're going to meet this person, but
so basically role playing.
Yeah, exactly. It was that sort of thing. It just didn't like it at all. It just all my sort of gentle, plot ideas and suggestions and things. Well, they're going to do this, and then next time when I write, it's they're going to meet this other person and do that, and then in between time, someone like this person gets killed off. So what I'm planning to do can't happen anymore. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to get stuck into that sort of simultaneous writing thing. So I think we're going to start on our second novel soon, hopefully. Well, we want to sort of keep things churning over. So it's sort of, I might do it under a pseudonym, because it's sort of, slash horror sort of thing. It's not very nice. It's very dark and very unpleasant, and I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't sort of fit in with all the other stuff I write. So I might adopt a pseudonym for that one. But
Gerald,
yo,
have you had any stuff in an anthology like this one here? That's the only one, only thing I've had actually. Well, no, I tell you what, in a book form print. I've had magazine things, but in a book form print. Believe it, a bit closer. Available at your bookshops. Actually, you can get it in Felixstowe. You can get in a bookshop in Felixstowe. I'm on page 27. Yeah, it only costs me £5.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. It's quite often these anthologies work out to be quite expensive. But,
it's a £5. The first time I've ever been in. I haven't read it. I wrote my story, but I haven't read everyone else's. I will. I actually bought 8 of them, so it's that's 8 Christmas presents I got.
So good. I've not appeared in print other than my own stuff, but I don't know. Again, it's with I'm such a writing snob, aren't I? I'd be a bit fussy about who I was in an anthology with, and were they really good writers, and would I be proud to be in an anthology and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is about the anthology, I mean, people have written poems there, and nothing against poems per se, and some of them are very good, but I can't really write poetry, and there's certain things that I know I can't write, so I wouldn't even try, if you like, in that direction. But it's interesting that an anthology of our writers group, it's got like loads of different kinds of things, and so stuff people that might like something else then might read yours and think, oh, actually I quite like that, and then might try and search out other stuff.
Yeah, it's an idea. I think it's like a lot of things. I've got my own projects now, and when people, that's why I'm not part of a sort of real life writing group, because I've been in those before, and you go to them and they'll have a bag and you have to pull out an object and write a story about that, and I think I don't want to write about that. I've got my own things I want to write, so I know I've written enough now to know what I enjoy writing and what I want to write, and I've got so many things going on the top of my head that I know what actual stories I want to write, and so I'd rather sort of just keep on with that at the moment.
Yeah.
But I've done short stories, I've done a load of flash fiction, and enjoyed that. I really enjoy the short form work. So
I mean, I know what you mean about the stories. They do that at my club sometimes, and that's normally the night I don't go because it's like put 4 words out of a hat and write for 20 minutes. Well, that's not me, because I get it in my head and it mulls over in my head, and then I form it and then I write it. But I mean, the thing we have is they'll give us a word or a sentence or something, so you can then form it into anything you like. I mean, last year someone said pebbles. Pebbles? What do you mean pebbles? Someone wrote about pebbles on a beach. I cheated. I called someone. I named a person called Pebbles. I would write about whatever I like then.
very good.
Pebbles on the beach.
Yeah, Pebbles goes to the beach.
Yeah, and why not?
And why not? And dies. There you go.
Well, that's where the red line. Someone said a thin line, so I made a red thin line, and that went round a body, and that's where one of the things came from that went into my novel. I thought, yes, I think I can take that idea from there and run with that. And so that sort of came from there, and I drew things from other places.
One of the things I do is I work at a literary festival, and we had a guy at the last one who was Fergus McNeill, who's a crime writer, and he was saying that he had this idea for a story, and he was looking for a location and couldn't find anywhere suitable, and he just happened to go past the Severn Bridge between England and Wales, obviously, and there's a beach there, and he thought, what a great place for a body to be found, and then that started him off, and it's a really good, a good story about the story and about writing, and it's just things like that, isn't it, that can start you off, just like you say, a thin red line, and bang, away you go. I like that.
I mean, it's interesting where they'll give something like a thin red line, and you'll get 12 to 13 people write something completely different with the same subject. That's the interesting bit when you listen to the stories. They don't really critique them as such, and it's only 1,000 words, but it's interesting.
Mm. Yeah, very good. Well, I think we've been going for about an hour and a half, which is about 5 times.
It's not a record.
Sorry?
I say it's not a record, is it?
It is, yeah. Oh, yes, it's a record. They're getting longer and longer, these things. I started off thinking, I'll make it 15, 20 minutes, nice and tight, and la la la, and we're done, and they're just yakking on, getting longer and longer. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, there's nobody's got anything to push or to sell? Anybody want to mention websites that they've got? Oh, you've already done it.
I have this great website called NaNoWriMo.org. Apparently you have to write a novel in like a month or something. It's ridiculous.
That's stupid.
Those other crazy ones we have to do 50,000 words in 5 days.
Oh God. And you can do it in 3 days, actually.
If you don't sleep.
Or was it something like that?
No, it's yeah. I'm starting this week, so it's. I've been planning today.
Oh yeah, I forgot you were doing that. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Again, like other people with Nano, I think I did 17K in 3 days last year. And if I don't do 50K in 5 days, it doesn't bother me. But I've got a crime story this time that again it was very recent. It was just, I think, something on the radio I heard. I can't remember what I heard, but I just suddenly thought that'd make a good story, and we're off. So yeah, we're planning that at the moment. Yeah, another thing to like finish on my hard disk. Never mind. So yeah, no one else. Quicks, you got nothing to. You've your music website. Do you want to mention that?
No, I don't need to plug my site. I mean, I can if you want. I just I don't want to hijack anything or.
It's fine. No, it's fine. I always like to give people a chance to if they want to mention if they have a blog or sometimes writing, if they've got books out, they might want to mention where the books can be bought from and stuff like that. But no push.
I've got a blog, but
well,
I'm probably the only one that reads it though.
No, I read it avidly. Every day or week, whenever you update it, I read it. Probably, maybe. If you send me the link in a PM afterwards, and I'll make sure it goes in the show notes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing.
Sorry?
I said sure thing.
Okay, good stuff. And I put Bex's. Can I put your blog in there as well, Bex?
Yeah, if you like. I wish I had more time to update it. I love writing for it, but it takes me like a full day to research and write posts. I don't have that time anymore. Maybe over Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. There's always time. Just get up earlier in the morning. That's all you have to do.
You don't know what you asked of me.
That's crazy. Okay, well, I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you, all three of you, for coming to my little hideaway. Really appreciate it. It's been nice to get back on air again, and we'll have you on again soon. I'll stop broadcasting. For those watching, wake up and and thank you for watching. Thank you for the people who might view it afterwards on YouTube, and I'll see you next time.